Have you ever tried Googling your own name only to find thousands of people just like you scattered across the planet? Ha ha! You are not alone. According to the world's biggest surname database, Forebears, there are over 30 million unique surnames being used right now. So the names like Patel in India, Vandenberg in the Netherlands, Lai in China, Smith in England, Okafor in Nigeria, or De Silva in Sri Lanka, every single one is a thread in humanity's giant family quilt. But how did we all end up with family names? Why did some cultures get them thousands of years ago and others only in the past few generations? Let's jump back in time across continents, empires, and villages to spot the patterns. Before going further, let's check, what is a surname really? Well, a surname or family name isn't just a tag on your passport, it's a handy way to show what family you come from. Surnames make it easy to tell people apart, help pass down property, and link you to your roots, whether that's a line of warriors, carpenters, or village teachers. But this idea, everyone having a fixed last name, is newer than you might think. Most societies invented surnames only after towns and cities got too big and complicated for just one name to work. India, from lineage to surnames. Let's start with India, where naming traditions are as diverse as its thousands of communities, languages, and landscapes. For much of Indian history, fixed surnames as we understand them today were very rare. Back in the Vedic period, around 1500 BCE and onwards, people did not use a last name like Patel or Singh. Instead, identities were woven from social markers like gotra, varna, family professions, and even legendary ancestral names. But before we go further, let's quickly check what gotra and varna means. Gotra is a big family whose members come from the same ancestor through many generations. On the other hand, varna is a broad social class that grouped people based on their roles, duties, and occupations. So, for example, take the name Krishna Vasudev Yadav. Each part tells you something important. Krishna is a personal name. Vasudev, this is a patronymic, meaning son of Vasudev, which shows which immediate family line, for example, father's name. Yadav, this tells us his broader clan or community, connecting him to the ancient Yadu Gotra or lineage. The Yadavs were traditionally pastoral warriors and cattle herders, which is a distinct social group within the larger Vern system. Names like these served as living records, telling others who you were and where you came from, and what role you held in society long before fixed surnames existed. The Arth Shastra, written by Kautilya around the 4th century BCE, does not talk about surnames as we know them now, but it stresses the importance of detailed records of family, profession, and community for the purpose of taxation, inheritance, and royal governance. Well, this shows that while the modern surname was a later development, the core need to track lineage and social role is very ancient. Over time, especially during the rise and fall of empires like the Maurya, Gupta, Vijayanagar, the Mughals, and later the British colonial period, which was from 1700s till 1900s, the need to fix surnames became stronger and stronger. The British administration, for example, streamlined record keeping with census, land registers, and tax rolls, all requiring permanent family names. That is why Indian surnames often reflect Varna, which is the broad social class like Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. Also, Jati, which in the current context is community or caste, or profession, place, or clan. They carry centuries of history mixed with family, social order, and occupation, all layered into a rich, complex web. By the way, we will cover varna, jati, and caste in the future episodes in detail. On the other hand, Europe's surname story really took off between the 11th and 15th centuries when towns and cities grew rapidly. Suddenly, there were many people named John or Mary in the same place, and just a single name wasn't enough to tell them apart. People started adding descriptive labels that later became fixed surnames. For example, Johnson means John's son, marking family lineage. Smith identifies the blacksmith, showing occupation. Hill points to someone living near a hill. These surnames were essential for tax collection, property ownership, legal documents, and inheritance. In England, the Norman Conquest of 1066 pushed the adoption of surnames faster. By the 1400s, fixed family names were widespread, first among the nobility and then commoners. Other parts of Europe shared similar trends. In France and Italy, nobles led surname use, often reflecting estates or titles. As trade in cities grew, surnames became a practical necessity and a way to establish identity across expanding regions. So, it can be said that patronymics, which means using a father's name as a person's identifier, were common worldwide before fixed surnames existed. Permanent surnames became widespread mainly when bureaucratic systems needed stable records for taxation and legal purposes. Before the 19th century in the Netherlands, Dutch people typically used patronymics, such as Jan Dirksen, meaning Jan, son of Dirk. This practice was especially common in northern provinces. Meanwhile, fixed surnames were established earlier in cities and among merchants, often derived from professions or places. But a big turning point came in 1811 when Napoleon's French Empire took control and forced everyone in the Netherlands to adopt fixed surnames for civil and tax records, replacing most patronymics officially. Many people complied, some creatively. For example, Vandenberg means from the mountain, Bakker means baker, De Vries means the Frisian, referring to their regional identity. People in rural areas, especially peasants, sometimes chose funny or rebellious surnames to poke fun at officials or avoid paperwork. For example, some took surnames like Naakt geboren, which means born naked, or Koppige, which means stubborn. This history adds layers of humor and resistance to Dutch surname origins, mixing official administration with the personal stories. On the other hand, China's surnames are among the oldest in the world, stretching back over 4,000 years to around 2000 BCE during the Xia and Shang dynasties. Chinese emperors used surnames to organize massive populations, track taxes, conscription, and enforce social order. Chinese surnames often consist of just one character with deep meaning. For example, Wang means king, Li means plum, linked to royalty and culture, Yang means archer. These single character surnames united millions under common clans, connecting families with vast histories and cultural significance. Today, these names remain some of the most common worldwide, reflecting the power of lineage and tradition. In many African cultures, names carry deep meaning and reflect important traditions. For example, in Nigeria's Igbo culture, names often show the day or situation of a child's birth. Okafor means a boy born on the Afor market day, connecting the person to their community's calendar. Across Africa, naming combines lineage, clan, and circumstances of birth, forming intricate social maps deeply tied to history and community. In Southeast Asia, including Indonesia and Myanmar, many people traditionally have only one name. When global systems force the use of surname, people might duplicate their given name or invent one, demonstrating cultural adaptation. So, going through these examples in history, we can summarize that. First, as villages grew into cities and empires became more complex, rulers and societies needed simple, stable ways to A. Collect taxes, B. Manage property and inheritance, C. Organize armies and governance. Second, before surnames, identity was tracked through relatives, professions, clans, or social status. Third, today's surnames still connect us to our heritage. Fourth, surnames help unlock many modern essentials, such as passports, bank accounts, and social identity apps. However, it's important to know that not everyone today has or needs a surname. Millions of people in places like Indonesia, Myanmar, parts of India, and Africa often use just a single name or follow patronymic naming traditions. But global systems, such as passports, airline bookings, and online forms, usually require a surname. Because of this, some people double their given name, like Sukardi Sukardi in Indonesia, adopt a parent's first name as a surname, or create new family names to meet these international rules. I'm sure the next time you hear or say a surname, you'll see it in a whole new light. It's not just a name, but a living piece of history, a family's legacy, a tool that shaped societies, and a tradition connecting people across the world. Go ahead, drop your surname in the comments, share its meaning, and let's celebrate the incredible stories that connect us all.